Memory box. Life's an everyday adventure. That's my philosophy. Some days I get so excited about trying something new that it feels like it's my birthday. That's how I felt when I opened a box of pasta to create my very first piece of noodle art. I had never heard of noodle art until my friend Lily told me that you can make animals by gluing together pieces of uncooked pasta. Immediately, I imagined a giraffe made of long and short pasta tubes. I couldn't wait to make one. My mother brought boxes of pasta from the grocery store, and I began gluing and piecing the noodles together. It was awesome! But making a giraffe wasn't so easy. My first attempt looked more like a long-necked duck. I tried again, and this time my noodle art looked more like a giraffe. I ran to show my mother.
Good for you, Sweet Pea. It actually looks like a giraffe. It just needs a little giraffe color.
We gathered some supplies and painted my pasta giraffe. When we finished, my mother said she knew just the place to put it. I followed her upstairs and into my parents' bedroom. She knelt down, pulled a box from under the bed, and said,
"Your noodle art will be safe in here."
My toes were tingling like popping popcorn as my mother opened the box. Suddenly, an amazing smell of flowers hit me. "Wow, what's that?" I asked. My mother said,
"It's a memory box where I keep lots of little Molly things."
As I peeked into the box, I asked, "Why does it smell like flowers?"
Good question. I can't believe that beautiful scent has lasted so long,
my mother said, giggling a bit. She told me that my grandmother wanted to celebrate my birth by growing the most beautiful rose there ever was. She named it Molly's Rose. The petals in the box were from her first Molly's roses, and they still had a sweet smell. My mother then pulled out a big piece of paper that had 2 little footprints and 2 tiny handprints. My mother told me that these were mine from when I was only 1 month old. I giggled as I placed my hands and feet next to the prints. I used to be so small, and now I am so big. I reached into the box and touched something soft. When I pulled it out, I saw it was a tiny dress. My mother sighed and said,
This was your first dress. You looked so adorable in it."
As I examined the dress, I asked my mother where all of my other baby clothes were. She told me she gave most of them to other kids, but this one was too special to give away. She wanted to keep it to remind herself of how small and sweet I was. So far, I could not remember any of the items in the box, even though they were all about me. We searched through it a bit more, and I found an empty cookie box. When I asked my mother why she kept it, she told me that she always wanted to remember that my first big word was cookie. The box was filled with so many memories. It was fun to hear my mother's stories about when I was little. Next, we found a funny picture I had drawn. I looked at it from all 4 sides and still couldn't figure out what it was. Finally, my mother held it so I could see that it was me on a bike and my father crying. How sad. When did I draw this? I asked, frowning. My mother was giggling again.
This was when you first learned to ride a bike without training wheels. Your father was so proud of you that he cried. You were so pleased with yourself that you ran inside to capture the moment on paper. I think it is so sweet that you drew him with tears. I had forgotten that you did that.
Next, I pulled out a long blonde braid of hair. "What is this?" I asked, making a face as if it were a big, hairy spider. My mother told me that it was my hair from my first haircut. "Wow, I must have had very long hair," I exclaimed. My mother told me something I never knew. She said that I did have really long hair because she never wanted to cut it. So she didn't, until I couldn't see and kept bumping into things. Then she finally had to cut it. I put the braid up to my head to try to imagine what I would look like with long hair. My mother and I both laughed, and I put the giraffe made of noodles in the box. My mother was right. It will be safe in here. Soon it will turn into a memory that I can visit once in a while. I hugged my mother to tell her thank you. One more thing for the memory box today, my mother said as she ran to get her instant camera. She held out her arm and took a photo of the two of us. Then she wrote, "Molly's first time visiting her memory box." We smiled, put the new photo in the box, put the lid on, and slid it back under the bed to await another fun day of memories. It is almost impossible to remember everything, so creating a memory box is a great way to keep fun memories alive. Molly Moccasins, Everyday Adventurer.